Hello and welcome back to The Independent Pianist. I'm your host, Cole Anderson, and today we are continuing looking at Liszt's first year of pilgrimage, the Année de pèlerinage to Switzerland. This is a marvelous set. I've already put out several other movements on this channel, so you can check them out on my Liszt playlist. I will be completing the set in the near future, so depending on when you're watching this video, I might already have videos up for all the other pieces in this set as well. This piece, the Eglogue, immediately succeeds the incredible Valet Dobermann, which is definitely the piece de resistance of the whole set. It's the longest and most imposing piece from this collection. I have a very thorough analysis and discussion of that piece, which is really marvelous, a really marvelous piece. So that's on my Liszt playlist already. This piece acts as kind of an embracing of nature, a rejuvenation after all the difficulty, all the storm and stress of the previous composition. And you can see that pretty clearly from the quotation. And this quotation, like in several other pieces from this collection, is again from Childe Harold's Pilgrimage by Lord Byron. The morn is up again, the dewy morn, with breath all incense and with cheek all bloom, laughing the clouds away with playful scorn and living as if earth contained no tomb. This piece also harkens back to elements of earlier pieces, in particular the second and fourth movements. So the second movement was O Lac de Wallenstadt, or by Lake Wallenstadt. O Lac de Wallenstadt also had a poem of Byron and referenced the beauties of nature, demonstrating the solace that could be drawn from such spectacles by the individual. Besides the obvious comparison of key, all three of these pieces are in A-flat major, you can compare these wonderful cadenza-like passages towards the end of O Lac de Wallenstadt and the Eglogue. Both of these passages gently oscillate between tonic and dominant. They both have the same kind of melodic shape, reaching up to the highest ranges of the piano and then falling down. And they also have a undeniable similarity in feeling, mood, and piano sound. So here's the passage from O Lac de Wallenstadt. And the analogous one from the Eglogue. The connection between the fourth piece, Au bord d'une source, and Eglogue is less obvious, besides the use of the same key, but you can listen to the similarity of sound in the final cadences. They both have kind of an open sound on their final cadences, and they end on the fifth in the soprano as well. So here are those final cadences, the one in Au bord d'une source, and again in the Eglogue. So in my mind, the way that these pieces kind of dovetail together is evidence of Liszt's possibly planning this set for a complete performance. Although it's obvious that you wouldn't necessarily need to play all these pieces together, there is kind of a psychological trajectory that's being traced. So I think it's no accident that this piece appears here in the set, acting as a lovely consolation after Valet Dobermann, and also kind of hearkening back to earlier experiences and emotions that we've already experienced. So about the title, too, this is not a very common word, but an éclogue in English, or Eglogue in French. It's simply a name that originated as descriptive of a poetic work in general. It was used in ancient Greece and Rome, and later on it came to be applied to pastoral or bucolic poetry that was usually written in imitation of Virgil. And Virgil, of course, was the greatest Roman poet. So this piece, as befits the poetic inspiration, is also very unique in form. It begins with another gentle oscillation between tonic and dominant that prefigures the cadenza passage that I already played for you. The interesting thing is that this opening never again returns after the first few lines of music. Instead, the true motto of the piece, that's really at the heart of its emotional message, is the answering phrase. So this phrase is very beautiful for me, and I think also very interesting in its character. It has somewhat of a peculiar style. Harmonically, it avoids the dominant altogether. Instead, it just uses the 1 chord, the 6 chord, and the 4 chord. This kind of gives it an archaic quality, and I think taking that along with the instruction to roll the very widely spaced chords, which I think is meant to apply to all the chords with the tenths in the left hand, kind of suggests the idea of some kind of bard or minstrel, a storyteller, perhaps delivering some kind of poetic work. Like so many of Liszt's works, this piece is again loosely based on the idea of variation form, but in a slightly different way than you'd usually see it treated by classical composers before Liszt. Once we get to what I have marked as the B section in the performance, you'll hear that there are 3 different iterations of the same rhythmical idea. The rhythmical idea of an anacrusis, or upbeat. So the basic melodic idea goes yum bum. That's kind of a pickup and then a stronger downbeat. Although all 3 ideas are slightly different, they all start with this same kind of pickup idea. So here's the first iteration. And the second version, now in forte and with a highly varied articulation. And the third version, this time very legato, very lyrical and singing. So this idea of gradually allowing larger sections of music to unfold through continual variations on a basic rhythmical or melodic motive was very typical for Liszt, and you can see how this was originally drawn from the Viennese classical school, particularly from Haydn and Beethoven, who liked to construct their works from very small motivic and rhythmic cells. It's treated in a much freer kind of design by Liszt, but I think that's really where it comes from originally. Also very typical of Liszt's style is the freedom with which he treats the ending of the piece. He allows the motto from the A section to gradually make its way back into the form, alternating with material from the B section. Then only at the very end of the piece, after the cadenza passage that I played for you already, does the motto return in the original key and form, very briefly, right before that ending coda. So it is very unique. It's a form that was really developed just for this piece, and somehow it works beautifully. It's really an example of how daring Liszt was. Although he references styles and techniques from earlier composers, he very rarely actually uses any of the standard classical forms. Very rarely does he actually use sonata form exactly as it was used before, or variation form. He was much more experimental in this regard. So daring, but I think it pays off most of the time. Also, I think this is a very approachable piece from a technical standpoint, along with Olak de Wallenstadt, the Pastoral movement, and the following movement from this set, Le Mal du Pays. This is a wonderful piece for the intermediate pianist looking to get into Liszt's works. And it's really a shame. This piece seems to very rarely be assigned by piano teachers, students don't really seem to know it very well, but it's really a great introduction to Liszt's style. It's kind of like Liszt-Lite from a pianistic standpoint. It has all the technical aspects that make Liszt's music so appealing from a point of pure piano sound, but never in a way that's too complex or taxing. So just for example, in the B section, the theme that we heard before comes back with the theme in the left hand, and the right hand has this figuration which is kind of embroidering it. And this is very typical of Liszt's writing and of Romantic piano writing in general. But in this case, even though it sounds great, the right hand doesn't have to do anything too terribly taxing or difficult. So again, it's a really great intro to this style of piano writing, and I'd recommend it to anyone who wants to get into more Romantic music or more Liszt, but isn't quite confident yet with leaping into La Campanella or the Sonata in B minor, or some of those more imposing and technically difficult works. So thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned. The performance of Eglogue is coming up in just a moment. Please do support the channel, hit the subscribe button and the like button below this video, and sign up to become a financial patron of the channel at www.patreon.com/independent pianist. I also have links to my PayPal account, Venmo account. Donations of any amount are greatly appreciated to keep this content coming week after week. Also, if you'd like to study with me or if you'd like to book me for a live performance, feel free to drop me a line at cole@independentpianist.com. So thanks once again for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take care, keep practicing, and stay well.